death inside a dream, and I'm not talking about someone else dying. I'm talking about I don't think up until this point that I've ever actually had a dream that I've died in my dream, but somehow I ended up dying, or at least I thought I died, inside this dream. And then I experienced what I thought would be the afterlife. And I'm not trying to go into some religious debate or whatever, but this is what happened in my dream. I remember I was laying on the operating table, and I could hear all the doctors talking about my vital signs were dropping, and they didn't think I was going to make it. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, is this it? Is this the end? Is this really what's going to do it? Am I going to vanish into thin air like that, never realize anything that has ever happened? Am I going to see God? Am I going to be reincarnated? I mean, all these things were going into my mind at the time. And there was a light right above me, and it was the operating light. And then I started thinking to myself, okay, is there going to be a ghostly figure that's going to come down and take me away? But what ended up happening is my eyes were open while they were working on this, and they were kind of shaking me a little bit, and they, are you awake? Are you awake? Are you awake? And then I heard the beep, the flatline beep, and I just kind of had that feeling like I can keep my eyes open just for a few seconds longer. And then they got really heavy, and they got really heavy, and then I just kind of just closed them, but I could still feel them trying to shake me. And the doctor said, okay, note the time of death or whatever. And everything was dark for a second, and then I remember I opened my eyes up again, and I could see all the doctors walking away as if they were done. And I just kind of sat up, but I felt really light. I felt really as if I had no weight. And my arms, it was like no resistance whatsoever. And I got off of the operating table, and I look, and I could see myself laying down on this operating table with no vital signs, no pulse, no nothing. And I kind of freaked out a little bit because I started thinking about my family. I started thinking about the things that I'm now going to miss out on, that I don't have anymore. And that car that I've always wanted to get, I'm never going to get it. Those kind of things started to enter in my mind. And it was almost like a feeling of depression looking at myself. And it was like I was reflecting on my life there for a minute. And keep in mind, this is all happening in a dream. And I just started to, I turned around and I looked, and everything was all white. It was all just white. And I started walking towards this bright light. And I started thinking to myself, is this a hokey ending to my life? Go to the light, that kind of thing. And then I ended up passing through this light or whatever, and I felt really warm. And I started hearing this music, which I can't remember what song it was exactly, but it was like a choir song. And this ghostly figure, whoever it was, started walking towards me. And it wasn't the typical, God with the robes and that kind of stuff. It was just some guy walking towards me, and they were really tall. And I remember I asked that question. I said, "Are you God?" And they just kind of shook their head, and I said, "I don't want to be dead. This is not what I want. I'm not ready to die yet." And they held out their hand, and I remember at that very point I was thinking to myself, if I take this person's hand, does that mean that I accept death and I'm done? If I don't take this person's hand, am I going to be stuck as a ghost in the afterlife on Earth, like all the ghost stories you hear? And I remember I just stood there for a second and I thought, I want to be with my family so bad, but I don't want to be some haunting ghost or whatever. And so I ended up taking his hand, and that was exactly the point that I woke up. And it wasn't so much the dream that was weird. It was the feelings and emotions. And it was the fact that I was actually reflecting on the things that I would miss. And it got me really thinking about how I appreciate what I've got. Now, I'm not going to go into any religion or anything else like that, but based on my beliefs and what I was raised on and so on, that wouldn't be a bad ending. But I still ask my question, or that question from time to time, is it really there? Is there really an afterlife? You know, those kind of questions will probably always be with me, even though my religion tells me to 100% undoubtedly believe or whatever. It's human nature. So, whatever. I mean, I don't dwell on death, the possibility of death. It could happen today, tomorrow, it could happen when I turn 100. Who knows? But it's going to happen, and there's nothing I can do about it. So, you know, occasionally I have a dream about other people dying, but never about myself dying, so it's weird. So anyway, weird dream.